Hello everyone and welcome back to another election watch analysis video. Today I'll be going over a hypothetical matchup between Mike Garcia and AOC. So I'm going to be doing a two-part video series about the best and worst Democratic and Republican candidates and putting up the best and worst against each other and for each party. And at the end I might put up both of the best candidates. But anyway, I'm starting out with this video, which is going to be the best Republican versus the worst Democrat. And I picked the best Republican to be Mike Garcia. I think he's the best / most electable because he has strong appeal to minorities, suburbanites, and to blue-collar workers. He represents a California district that he actually narrowly won in 2020, but I think that his support there represents a larger appeal that he has across the nation. So I think that actually makes him the best GOP candidate, outclassing even Ron DeSantis. And AOC, I think, is the worst Democratic candidate because she does not have a broad base of support, and she is so outside of the national mainstream that she would definitely alienate a lot of voters who would go to a more moderate candidate like Mike Garcia. And I think they'd be comfortable voting for Mike Garcia. If not, they just wouldn't vote for at all, or maybe vote for a third-party candidate. But I don't think there would be a more moderate third-party candidate. That's pretty unlikely. Of course, there could be a strong write-in movement, but that, of course, is all hypothetical, so this scenario would just be between Mike Garcia and AOC. So starting off with home states, AOC would win California, Mike Garcia's home state, pretty easily. Mike Garcia could definitely improve in the southern areas of the state, but overall, he would not make it too close. New York, of course, self-explanatory, very blue state. AOC would definitely win there easily. So Democratic safe states would include much of the Northeast, like Maryland, D.C., Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Vermont, and Maine's first, along with several other states across the nation, such as Washington, Illinois, and Hawaii. Mike Garcia would win Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, and the Dakotas, all safe, along with most of Nebraska, and I'll speak about the 2nd District very soon, of course. Kansas, Oklahoma, and the rest of the South would all be safe, and not Georgia. I'll, of course, discuss that later since it is a pretty close state. And that rounds out the safe states for Mike Garcia and AOC. So likely states for AOC, Oregon, I think will be 11%, along with Delaware and Connecticut. These states are actually pretty narrow, not narrow, but they were less than safe for Hillary Clinton, or they were, less than safe is not a good word. Oregon and Delaware were about 11% for Hillary Clinton, and Connecticut was 13%. So I think these states would go about 11 each, maybe even less in terms of a state like Delaware or Oregon, because AOC has even less appeal than Hillary Clinton, so she would definitely lose a lot of voters. Colorado would be likely, along with Virginia. I think that Mike Garcia would definitely narrow up these states compared to Donald Trump's margins, but in the end he would not win them or make them even lean. But he would definitely do better in New Mexico, which of course I will discuss in a little bit. That rounds out AOC's safe states. I think Mike Garcia would win Texas and Florida because of his support amongst Hispanics and most minorities in general. Of course, AOC, being a self-proclaimed Democratic socialist, would not help her in the Miami-Dade area, and it could even go to the Republican side and go for Mike Garcia. That's entirely a possibility, so I think that the state will go about 5% to the GOP. Maine second will go to Mike Garcia with his populist strength, and Nebraska would go for him for his suburban strength. Interesting that I can say that in a video, having both suburban strength and populist strength, but Mike Garcia seems to be able to balance that, so he'd win both of these districts. Iowa and Ohio would go to him by possibly larger margins than they went to Donald Trump, and that will round out the GOP likely states. And now we'll head into the lean states, the ones that are closer than the other ones. So I'll start off with Maine at large. That will be a lean for AOC. Mike Garcia could definitely do better in Maine's 1st district. So in 2016, Hillary Clinton won Maine's 1st by 15%, and in 2020, Biden won it by 23%. That accounts for the shift in Maine at large from going from about 3% to about 9%. So I think it'd be pretty similar to 2016, where Mike Garcia would do very well in Maine's 2nd. He would improve on Donald Trump's 2020 margins in Maine's 1st, and he would lose Maine at large by about 2 or 3%. I think New Hampshire I'm going to talk about a little later, and New Mexico I'm putting as lean for AOC because Mike Garcia has very good strength with minorities, and he could definitely improve on a margin that we'd see much more similar to Mark Ronchetti's margins in the 2020 New Mexico Senate race compared to Donald Trump's 2020 margin in the state. Mark Ronchetti lost the Senate race in New Mexico by about 6%, doing better in the northern counties than Donald Trump did. Mike Garcia could definitely do something similar, and if AOC alienated enough voters, we could see him narrowing this up, even winning it. But for now, I think it's a little far-fetched, and I'd have to see an actual realistic scenario between the two, of course, like an actual election playing out, before I characterize this as GOP. And that will round out all of the lean states for AOC. Lean states for Mike Garcia will include North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Going over these calls, North Carolina, the suburbs and minorities could give Mike Garcia a pretty solid coalition. Georgia, he definitely went back to the suburbs, and that could give him a victory by about 2%. Arizona, he would win Maricopa County, improve with minorities, win Navajo County by a larger margin. That would give him a similar victory to Georgia, maybe a little bigger. Wisconsin, he'd win both the driftless counties, but also he'd do very well in the WOW counties. He'd roll back the gains made by Joe Biden and allow for a larger GOP win. Pennsylvania, of course, he'd do well in the rural areas, maybe win Erie, and improve in the outer areas of Philadelphia and the suburbs of that same city. So there we have it. Mike Garcia would have 294 electoral votes. AOC would have 210, of course. 34 electoral votes are Tossup as of now. And now I'll go into the tilt states. So New Hampshire is going to be a tough one for me. I have been debating this, and here's why. New Hampshire is one of the states in the Northeast that is very Democratic despite being very majority white. Joe Biden won it by a pretty large margin because Donald Trump was unpopular there, and it was pretty close in 2016, as you can see, about 0.3%. Though there was also a Senate race there that could have helped Donald Trump. I don't think that was a very big. I don't think it's a very big deal right now. We should not discuss that in full. Really, the 2020 results are what we should be talking about. As you can see, Donald Trump did not do very well. He lost all but 2 counties in the state, and those counties were by just under 10% or under 11% to be more exact. So Mike Garcia could win there. He could do well with Chris Sununu voters. He could, gain a lot of white voters. AOC would alienate plenty of moderates, and again, the Chris Sununu voters that made, Biden Sununu voters, they would not vote for her. There's no way they'd vote for a socialist. But we've also seen that New Hampshire has been friendly to Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries. Is that a proper representation of the state in the general election? I'm not quite sure. But for now, I'm considering putting this in both columns. So I'm going to give it to Mike Garcia because I think he would win over the Sununu voters while AOC would alienate them. But right now I'm putting it as tilt, so like very, very narrow, under 1%, under 0.5%, definitely. And I think the rest of the states are all going to go to Mike Garcia. Nevada, his strength of minorities will definitely help him. But it is a pretty Democratic state, 2.4% for both Biden and Clinton. So I think it'd be about 1% for Garcia. Minnesota is very difficult, but he could definitely improve in the Hennepin County area, the suburbs of Minneapolis and, the Twin Cities. He definitely improve in the rural areas, in the working class areas, and he could do, better there than Donald Trump did. He lost the state in 2016 by 1.5%. I think that, AOC has the potential to do well there, but Mike Garcia would likely improve in the cities, and which would, seal the win for him and give Minnesota's 9 electoral votes. Michigan, I think much of the reasoning still applies here. AOC would alienate many voters. She wouldn't do as well in the cities, in the suburbs, in the working class areas, and the white voters that went for Biden. She would not get that coalition there, and that would cost her Michigan's 15 electoral votes, giving them to Mike Garcia. This is the final map, as you can see. So if you skip to the end, this is not necessarily a prediction that I think will come true. This is the best Republican candidate versus the worst Democratic candidate. And of course, these candidates are very different. AOC's on the far left wing of her party, while Mike Garcia has much more moderate appeal, which has given wins in areas like Minnesota, Michigan, and New Hampshire. So yeah, that rounds out the video, folks. Thank you all for watching. If you like the video, leave a like, of course, and subscribe for more content. Hit the bell so you can see all my new videos when they come out, and leave a comment about what your prediction is. Who do you think my best Democratic candidate will be in my next video, and who will be the worst Republican candidate? Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.